Is your Keurig K-Elite leaking water onto your countertop? Well, luckily for you, so is mine. I'm going to show you guys what I found and what I did to stop it, or at least slow it down for the time being. Let's get started. So backing up for a second, we bought this Keurig K-Elite, I want to say about 3-4 years ago, and the thing that really drew me to this model was the option that it had for doing iced coffee. I love this brewer, we use it all the time. Unfortunately, I want to say like 6 to 8 months in, I noticed that we had a lot of water starting to pool up, especially on this left side here by the water tank. So I figured maybe the water tank had a crack, maybe there was some sort of leak. So we started looking into it a little further. So the first thing I did was I filled this water tank full of water and I let it sit on the countertop on top of some paper towel. And I let it sit for a good day or two, and I didn't notice any kind of wet spots coming out at all whatsoever. But I noticed every time the water tank was seated back onto the machine, that's when we start having issues. So I thought maybe something was leaking internally in the machine. Maybe it was coming out of the bottom, maybe a loose hose or something. But every time I would dry it off and I checked the machine after use, I never found any water coming out of the base of the machine itself. I further ruled out this tank because if you think about it, if this thing is full of water, it has this valve at the bottom here, and even if that's leaking, when you seat this back onto your machine, that valve sits in that little pintle or nozzle or whatever you want to call that, and opens that valve up so water can flow into the machine. So whether this is leaking or not from that nozzle, it doesn't really matter because we need water to flow into the machine. So I did some research online, kind of find out this is a fairly common issue, and I looked into maybe getting a different water tank, maybe something about the diameter of that nozzle sitting in there wasn't right. New water tank's like $30-40. At that point, you're half to a third of the way of buying a new Keurig, so I ruled that out. Plus, like I said earlier, I don't think we really need a water tank. I thought maybe this grommet here, there was some sort of seal or washer we could replace. There's absolutely no replacement parts unless you're buying, something used from another brewer that was torn apart. But honestly, this issue is so rampant, it looks like no matter what, if you buy a used part off of another brewer, you might end up with the same issue. So rather than throwing this out, I think we're out of warranty, so there's no replacing it. Just to get us by for the time being and not have to constantly mopping off our countertop, I took a closer look and I found some people online saying that they were having an issue right here at this seal. There's just something about this seal, the tolerances are off. It's letting water sneak by as long as there's enough level in there and enough pressure pushing it out. So here's what I came up with for the time being. This food safe silicone grease is easily gotten on Amazon, maybe about $3-4. We don't want to be packing it in here to the point where it's getting ingested into the water and into the machine. But I think if we apply it to this ring here and then on the outside of the nozzle, I think that'll be good enough to seal it, kind of fill in the gaps, and we won't have to worry about the grease getting drawn into the water into the machine. So I'm going to tell you guys, I have tried this before. I've only applied this grease once, and it worked like a charm, I want to say, for about the first 6 months or so. I'll be honest, I don't descale my brewer as much as I should. It gets kind of intermittent use. Sometimes it gets used every day. Sometimes I only use it every few months. But I think it's due time now for a good descaling and a full cleaning top to bottom. Definitely the tank needs to be washed out. So I figured at that point, while we're doing some basic maintenance, like the descaling, that'd be a good time to kind of clean up this old grease and reapply the new grease. So what I'm going to do is just get a Q-tip in here along that seal, and we're just going to try to, I don't know if you can really see it there, but we're just going to try to get up as much of that old grease as we can. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and hit this tank nozzle too. You see, somehow we got some grease that worked its way on the inside of the nozzle. I usually try to apply it to the outside, but I think over time with water tanking filled up and settled back into the machine, it's probably worked itself loose. All right, so now I got the grease cleaned out on the outside, I'm sorry, the inside. Go ahead and give it a nice wipe on the outside there. And you can see we're looking pretty free and clear right now. So I'm liking the way that's looking. Now, as far as applying the new grease, I want to get a decent amount on the outside here. I don't want enough where it's going to just start gobbing up all over the place, but you need just enough to the point where it's actually going to seal up all those surfaces. So we want to focus just on the end of the nozzle there. Not the top, not inside, but just the end here on the outside part. And I'm going to probably put one more layer on top just to be on the safe side. Alright, so now that we got a nice layer of grease built up on the outside of that nozzle, I'm gonna go ahead and turn my attention to the seal. Now this is pretty tricky. I'm gonna try to use my Q-tip here. We wanna get just on the outside edge. I really wanna try to avoid the inside of that nozzle there. Like I said, we don't wanna get it gunked up inside and potentially, you know, into our coffee as well. So just hit it around the outside. Try to get it just inside on that silicone seal that's in there. It's a little tricky, but take your time with it. You should be able to get it where it needs to go. Okay, so you can see we got a decent amount on the outside there. You probably can't see it, but I've got some around the seal there too. I think we're pretty much good to go ahead and reinstall the tank. One word of advice I'd give you guys to make this last as long as possible. I probably wouldn't take the tank off and go fill it directly from your water source. I might use a cup or something and fill the tank and just keep it on the machine. The more that you move the tank on and off the machine, the more it's going to disturb that grease and probably encourage leaking again down the road. There you have it, guys. It's all resealed. Like I said, I'd probably do this as regular maintenance along with the descale. Probably replace that water filter too while we're at it. And now we're good as new. Now, is this solution perfect or permanent? Probably not. But honestly, this is the best option I could come up with before breaking down and buying an entirely new brewer or starting to replace parts that just simply aren't available. So I can tell you right now it's worked for me. I'm hoping I'll get at least a few months where this water tank doesn't leak onto the counter. So I'm looking forward to that. And let me know down in the comments if this worked out for you guys. I'm really curious to see if it's working out, out in the real world for everybody else. If you found this video helpful, show me some love by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.